Welcome everyone, thank you for tuning in. My name is Nico, I go by COINTrick and COINTrickTwitch online. Most of you probably already knew that though. Maybe, probably, hopefully, we'll find out. Tonight, I'm going back to sort of what I used to do on most of my live streams. I'm going to be answering questions. Raise them if you got them. You don't have to have a glass, and if you do have a glass, you do not have to have alcohol in it. But thank you guys for tuning in and making this possible. Cheers. From Fallen Angel 85. When someone says they want a drink that is fruity and doesn't taste like alcohol, what is your suggestion? Solid question. Typically, I would recommend, if you want something that's fruity that isn't going to taste like alcohol, I mean, you could get a screwdriver if you want to be incredibly basic, especially if you're making something at home. One step above just getting like a screwdriver or like vodka cranberry would be getting a Cosmopolitan, and I always rant and rave about how good Cosmopolitans are and how most people don't really fully appreciate them and how good and not universal, but flexible they are as cocktails. If not a Cosmopolitan, if you want to go all the way out into left field, order something like a Last Word. It's equal parts gin, green chartreuse, lime juice, and maraschino marasca liqueur, or specifically Luxardo maraschino marasca liqueur. And yeah, it tastes very tart, very fruity, does not really taste like alcohol. And if you're afraid of the gin and if you're afraid of the green chartreuse, you shouldn't be. It doesn't really taste like either of those things predominantly. The only LA dollar bean. If I wanted to work at a bar while I'm in college, does it take long to learn? Does it take long to learn how to work in a bar while you're in college? I mean, if you're first picking this up, it's going to depend on the style of bar that you're going to, sort of what kinds of drinks they serve, and also the kind of clientele that you have. So like fine dining restaurants where people show up expecting to sit down and have like a multi-course meal and have like some light drinks to start, and then maybe wine with dinner, and then a cocktail, and then a nightcap. Like that style of service and that style of guest is going to be a little bit different from like a college bar where people are going to like belly up to the bar and just be like, hey, can I get like a rum and coke, vodka soda, gin and tonic, whiskey ginger. Depending on what style you're at, if it's like a college bar that's slinging mostly like highballs, you're probably going to be fine. You'll pick up pretty quickly. Just God help you if you ask anyone how to make a gin and tonic. It's a real thing. It happens. Don't be that guy. Chibi Sav, what tips do you have for a first-time bartender? Don't think of your customers as customers. Think of them as guests. And you start that by don't ever refer to them as customers. This is going to sound probably pretentious to some people. But it's something that my chef actually like lightly shouted at me about one day when I was talking about how many customers we had that day. And he goes, first of all, Nico, we don't have customers, we have guests. I never want to hear you refer to them as customers again. The reason you want to do that is because once you get into the mindset of treating your guests like guests and you see them as guests, the more that you will naturally begin to take ownership of the bar and it will become your space. It will feel more like your space, and people will feel more welcome when you treat them like guests, which means that they're more likely to come back and give you more money. Which is, I mean, one of the reasons why people would want to become a bartender. Do you watch anime from Colton? And I do watch anime. I watch mostly isekai anime. I'm not ashamed of it. And I recently learned that time I was reincarnated as a slime actually has a new season, or at least there was an episode that I hadn't seen where Veldora is actually like active in an episode. But I think it's a new season. I can't really tell because when I try and watch it at home, our Fire Stick crashes, so there's like a 1 in 7 chance that I actually get to watch a whole episode. But yeah, I watch a lot of anime. I've watched anime since, I don't want to give my age away, so I'm going to say I've watched anime since the mid-90s. Useless Peanut Butter asked, do you like White Russians? And I think my tongue-in-cheek response to this is that it's a trap! If you guys don't know, which is fine, a White Russian is actually a cocktail that was created by a Belgian person in Brussels, I think. I don't remember the guy's name. As a cocktail, it's a fine cocktail. My variation on this that I like to do is, and I believe there's actually a name for this, I think it's called a White Belgian, but basically swapping the Kahlua for Godiva chocolate liqueur, which is a Belgian chocolate liqueur. That's what I would prefer, mostly because Kahlua just feels way too sweet to me and not creamy enough. From Colton and, what is the most expensive alcoholic drink that you enjoy? Absinthe. I am D-Man 10. What is your most overrated and underrated drink? I think the most underrated drink is a Cosmopolitan. I said it earlier in this live stream. But the most overrated drink is probably a martini, only because most people, the vast majority of people, don't fully understand how to properly order a martini. And it's very important that you do, because there's a whole code to how you order a martini, but it's different when bar to bar, region to region. So not all bartenders can agree on what is in a dry martini or even a regular martini, a dirty martini. If someone's ordering a martini from you, if you're a bartender listening to this, make sure that you always ask, like, oh, how much vermouth did you want in that? And how much olive juice, or how dirty did you want it? Have you been asked out while working? From Person Likes Bean. I don't think so, but I'm also really bad at social cues. I've definitely had people hit on me at work, but I've never had anyone besides my current girlfriend, and that doesn't really super count because we weren't open yet, and we were technically working together, and she didn't really even ask me out. She was just like, hey, you should call me, as she was leaving. Clearly that's worked out. How do you keep care of your hair? And what is your favorite drink? Okay, cool. My favorite drinks are Manhattans, daiquiris, cold brew coffee, and lattes, depending on what time of the day it is, what mood I'm in. As far as what I do to take care of my hair, not enough. I only get it cut or trimmed like once every... Hannah might remember this better than I do, but I think it's once every 2 or 3 months now. I mean, I wash it like once or twice a week, which probably sounds gross to a lot of people. It's after being on this earth for so many decades, it's what I've learned works the best for my hair type. From Kevin in a Van, what is your favorite raid in Destiny 1? The best raid mechanically was Vault of Glass, which was the first raid in Destiny 1. It was the most challenging, but also it was the one that you could come back to it and be better at it every time. The raid that I enjoyed the most was actually Crota's End. I loved that one because it was the first raid that it felt like I didn't need a whole party to really get into. So either I would jump in alone, or I would jump in with Jake, or maybe like a couple of other people, but we frequently would go into that raid without a full party and just see how far we could get. And then eventually we figured out that you could kind of beat it with like one player. From Femboy Furry, have you ever accidentally dropped a bottle or broke a bottle? Yes. From Cole Whitley, so you've had experience as a barista and a bartender. Have you ever combined both of them to make your own coffee drink? Yeah. One of the first drinks that I got on the menu is actually in my current cocktail book. My version, or my restaurant's version of an espresso martini. Classically, an espresso martini is 3 ingredients: vodka, espresso, simple syrup, shaken, served in a coupe, with 3 espresso beans. That being said, that particular model has become so apocryphal and just lost to time that most bars just kind of have their own iteration on it. My version of it I now call the Barista Martini, because it's sort of something that I arrived at after doing a lot of experimentation and research on coffee-based cocktails, finding things like your obvious ones, the espresso martini, the Irish coffee, but also things like Black Russian, White Belgian, Gaelic coffee, Café Barraquito, which is also Café Canario. Some of the ingredients that I thought would work well just across the cocktails, which for me was Liquor 43, Godiva, milk chocolate liqueur, and Bailey's. So combining a Belgian coffee, a Café Canario, and an Irish coffee, an American version of an Irish coffee, and then vanilla vodka, and then a double shot of espresso. So there's no added sugar, but it is a very strong drink, both in caffeine and alcohol content, but it is delicious. It's one of my favorite ones to make at home too. Do you think you'll ever quit bartending? And if you do, what job would you get? From Idiot Weeb 0. That's an aggressive username. There's a quote from Adam Savage that I'm not gonna remember exactly what it is verbatim. He said that before he got into TV and visual effects, and before he became part of the Mythbusters, and before he was famous, he was a sculptor. But because the things that he learned as a sculptor have permeated and helped understand and cultivate his skill in all of these other areas, he will always be a sculptor, even if he's not technically making sculptures, even if he's not technically sculpting. He will always be a sculptor. Just because I started bartending doesn't mean I stopped being a barista. All of those same skills and all of that same knowledge and practice I applied to bartending. So even if I stopped bartending, all the stuff I learned as a bartender, I will hopefully apply and learn to apply to whatever I decide to do next. This is interesting. Can you please make a drink for diabetics? Alcohol is chemically speaking, it is a kind of sugar. I'm not really sure how that affects people with diabetes. Vodka soda would be your safest thing to do, but if you're looking at cocktails, I would do something like a sidecar without a sugar rim, obviously. You can also make a margarita without any agave in it, which is kind of how most people make it in America anyway. Just be wary if you're ordering these at a bar that they're using fresh citrus and that they're not using sour mix, because sour mix will frequently be sweetened with sugar. How was your biggest poo ever? Pretty great. Not memorable though. I don't know if it's been asked before, but what made you want to become a bartender? From Charlotte Lin 63. I don't know that it's one specific thing, but one of the main reasons that I took this job specifically at my bar was because it seemed like a really good opportunity to learn a lot of stuff at a good pace. When I started at my bar, we weren't making cocktails. We were only serving wine and beer, and there was like a small food menu that I had to memorize. So it seemed like an easy transition into learning other kinds of drinks and learning more about beer and wine and just drinking culture in general. The initial gut reason that I had to pick up the job was to learn more. I also thought that maybe if I did that, it would make me a better barista. If you could be any other type of job, what job would that be? I would be an Autobot, but I would be one of the cool ones like Grimjaw that turns into like a T-Rex or something, or a bat. What was the weirdest moment of your bartending career? There's the story I told on my most recent TikTok about how we had a girl who got hired using her twin sister's resume, basically stealing her twin sister's identity. That was weird. I had a coworker who got drunk on the job and dumped white wine in the koi pond in front of our guests during service. A guy who got kicked out of the bar and then dropped trow, mooned the entire bar and said, well, if you're gonna kick me out, you should go ahead and fuck me in the ass. That was weird. Lots of weird stuff happens, but those are all weird on different levels for different reasons, so it's a hard question to answer.